as I sit in my Corolla listening to Blue Sky Mine by Midnight Oil. Which I don't know how the fuck it got on the player, but it's on there. I want to talk about two things that are really burning at my soul. They're two garbage companies called Apple and Zoom. They make me sick to my stomach, both of them. Apple is a joke. I'm using an Apple, of course, as I talk about it. I'm sitting in a Corolla judging a $2 trillion company. And it's really hard to talk about what a $2 trillion company. There's no frame of reference for what that is. It's basically the size of America, just to put it in perspective. Give or take, Apple is as big as America. I can't handle this fucking band. It's the worst band I've ever heard in my life. Apple is essentially as big as America, give or take, but it's a perspectivable analysis to put things in a perspective, because it is not a fathomable number, $2 trillion. For a company that makes a phone and a watch and a really shoddy computer, all of which they haven't innovated on since their inception, I think it's a bold market cap to put Apple on par with the United States of America. And their PE ratio doesn't even look that bad. But I think it's a cooked profits. I think it's a cooked PE ratio. I'll just say that, because they're not, if they're booking that money, it's a very temporary book. It's the way the stars align. They're not going to be booking that kind of profit or even revenue, on the long term. That is a completely biased booking of revenue. Zoom it's not quite the United States, but its value is definitely on par with a state like, I don't know, Arizona, maybe Texas, Florida. Florida is about what Zoom does. Let me see, actually. We'll look it up on the fly. I wasn't very prepared. Yeah, it's the same comparison as comparing Apple to the U.S. Obviously, the U.S. is bigger than Apple, but it's the same type of comparison to also compare Zoom to the state of Florida. Zoom is like the Kleenex of tissues. Everyone's got tissues, and they're Kleenex. So they have a little bit of a more reputable tissue when it comes to doing webcams. I don't care if they're the Thor of webcams, because it's a joke industry. To webcam somebody isn't even of any significance. Like, if they weren't around, I could do it for everybody. It's not a big job. Just because they've turned it into a kitsch kind of, for government, for classrooms, as if it's some kind of it's a joke. That's all I'm going to say. I'm short of words tonight. I'm going to use "it's a joke" a lot because it works for Zoom. So, I have nothing else to say. Zoom is... Oh, let's talk just a little bit about Zoom's profit. It's not as attractive as Apple's ratio. And I don't think it's going to be getting much better. They made $45 million last year. Let's just call it, we're doing round numbers tonight. Let's just call it $50 million. They made $50 million And I'm even going to round down their market cap to 75 billion. That's a couple billion more, but who's counting? Now, a company that makes $50 million isn't worth more under any light than a couple of $1 billion. That's a lot of money, a couple of $1 billion. You're not going to see me take $2 billion out of my back pocket and put it into a company that made $50 million the year before. I'm going to put $1 billion maybe into a company like that. Yeah, I'll put $1 billion into a company like that. Especially if I feel like they have a strong future. I wouldn't put $1 billion into Zoom. If Zoom's market cap was $1 billion, I wouldn't be buying in to Zoom. But there are companies that if they made $50 million and were selling for $1 billion, I'd buy in, like AT&T. If they made $50 million last year and they were selling for $1 billion, I'd buy into a piece of the action. If Amazon.com made $50 million last year or $50 billion and they're selling for 10 times that, I'm buying in. Amazon's going places. At that price ratio, they're going places. Zoom's not going anywhere. Unless there's some kind of like cabal conspiracy regarding their fruition, it's not going to happen under any other light. If they actually made some money, the people that run the webcams of the world, like Facebook and Google, and even Apple, are going to jump into that space and they're going to crush Zoom. But they're not jumping into that space not because they're so clever and amazing. They're not jumping into that space because there's no money in it. That's why Zoom's leading. It's just going higher and higher and leaving Apple and Facebook and Google in the dust because they're not running the race. That's why they're in the dust. They weren't at the starting line when the race took off. They were sitting on their yachts, drinking Mai Tais, when Zoom started galloping off in their race and leaving everyone in the dust in their fantasy brains. They're a fake company. They're not even a real company. If you're buying into Zoom at a $76 billion market cap on the $45 million they pulled out of their ass probably in perpetuity from a company that thought they were going to get a better deal down the line, I feel really bad for you. I'm going to be honest. I feel like crap for you. Like, I feel like if I was you, I'd feel like a piece of shit. I'm just being honest.